Adam here, the Orlando drummer. Good to see you, and thank you for tuning in to another lesson. Today we're learning a groove that I've been toying around with for a few months now. I had originally created this groove for my advanced groove lesson pack on OrlandoDrummer.com, but when I was recording those lessons, I realized that this groove was just really hard for me to execute. So I held off to practice this thing for a little while, and I think the groove is finally feeling pretty good. In today's lesson, I'll break down the groove that you just saw note for note, but we'll also try to understand exactly what makes this thing so goddamn tricky, because it is really tough. We have 4 exercises to cover, so let's get into it. So let's first take a look at beat 1 and half of beat 2. You're looking at 6 notes here, but we have some weird subdivision stuff to work out. So 1E is played as 2 kick drums, and those are followed by 2 hi-hats. Now, that first closed hi-hat is a 32nd note, and the next open hi-hat is a dotted 16th note. And it's really important that we hear that second open hi-hat as though it's 1.5 16th notes long, because those hats are singing out until the downbeat of 2. Now, this kind of detailed subdivision work is what makes grooves within this style sound clean, and it's also one of the things that adds to the difficulty of this groove. You can see on the downbeat of 2, after we finish that open hi-hat, we'll play a snare drum as our backbeat there with the left hand, and we'll put a kick drum on the E after that. Let's give it a shot at 45 and 55 BPM. And for this next example, we're just going to add 5 notes to what we just learned, which will complete the first half of the groove. So starting on that kick drum where we left off on the E, our pattern to finish beat 2 is kick, left, right, left, left, kick, played as 32nd notes. And I like to think of this as one 6-note pattern that's basically a left-hand lead paradiddle sandwiched in between 2 kick drums. But for me, the placement of the hand pattern, the placement of the rudiment, is another thing that made this groove so hard. The only way you would have encountered this rudiment in this exact place is by doing some serious paradiddle permutation work within 32nd notes. And if you've done those kind of permutations, you are more prepared for this groove than I was. Let's give it a shot at the same 2 tempos, 45 and 55 BPM. And moving on to beat 3. In this section, we're adding in all those busy single strokes up on the hi-hats. And for me, this was actually the hardest part. This portion of the groove showed me that I didn't have quite as much control over my single strokes as I thought. Now, I'm used to playing fast single strokes, but speed is not what makes this difficult. The hardest thing for me here was texturing these notes to have the right feeling. So as you're playing these singles, be honest with yourself about how well they actually mesh into the groove. For me, it took a few weeks to really make these singles feel like they belonged here. Okay, so as far as what we're actually playing, it's just 6 single strokes, right, left, right, left, right, left, followed by 2 kick drums. That is all of beat 3. We'll throw a left-hand snare accent on the downbeat of 4 and loop it from there. Same 2 tempos, 45 and 55 BPM. And we have one beat of music left, guys. In beat 4, we have a few different ways that we can look at this pattern. So after our backbeat on the downbeat of 4, we have 2 kick drums, another left-hand lead paradiddle, and then a single kick drum. Now, perspective is going to play a role here because if we choose to look at just those last 6 notes, you'll see that that pattern is identical to the one that we already learned in this groove, that paradiddle inside of the kick sandwich, right? But if we zoom out and look at how we're coming off of beat 3 into beat 4, you'll see that there's this weird 5-note pattern of kick, kick, left, kick, kick. And that 5-note pattern is really difficult to pull off at higher tempos. But just like the single strokes in beat 3, it's not that it's so hard that you can't play the notes, but it's more a matter of being honest about the texture that you're getting. Making something sound good is not the same as playing it correctly. So for me, making the transition from beat 3 to beat 4 with those 4 kick drums, that required a little bit of extra attention. We'll try out our full groove at 3 different speeds, but of course remember there are plenty of tempos in between the ones that I'm about to show you, so if you need to try this out at 51 or 52 BPM, that is totally cool. Let's give it a shot. 45, 55, and 65 BPM. Alright guys, that is all I have for you in this one. If any part of today's lesson gave you trouble, I've got a list of a few follow-up lessons down in the description because conceptually, there's just so many things going on in this groove. We have kick speed, subdivision work, some really awkward rudiment placement. So if any one of those categories needs some extra attention, hold off on today's groove and tackle some of those other skill sets first. Trust me, it will be well worth your time to do so. If you're looking for more drum lessons just like this one, come join me on OrlandoDrummer.com where you'll find hundreds of lessons already waiting for you and a brand new drum lesson every single week. If you want to jam the track that was used for this lesson, it's part of a brand new loop pack available on OrlandoDrummer.com, the Trap Loop Pack Volume 2. Link is in the description. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Adam here, the Orlando Drummer, and I will catch you in the next one. Later.